Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber ask me, hey Jason, could you talk a little bit about people who say that they want to get big, they want to gain muscle, but they don't want to get stronger? And I think that's weird. I understand that some guys say that maybe they don't care about getting stronger, but to say that they don't want to get stronger, well, I'm going to use an old Texas expression that says you can want in one hand and shit in the other. So let me get in my place of Zen, let me craft a little bit, and see if we can answer this a little better, and so the people understand this. All right, basically, laws of biology. It is biologically impossible. In order to state this again, it is biologically impossible for you to hypertrophy or make a muscle grow bigger in diameter or size through actual muscle growth. I'm not talking about injecting. I'm not talking about collagen, synthol, any of that. To make the muscle actually grow without it increasing in strength. It cannot be done. The laws of biology prevent this. You as a human being can't do it. So give up on it. It'll never happen. Anything that makes the muscle grow is going to make it stronger. In fact, we pretty much know from all the research that many a good researcher has done for us to help us understand this, that there are only two factors in determining how much force a muscle fiber produces. Each individual muscle fiber, because you need to understand your strength potential in a muscle is basically just how much force all those muscle fibers can produce together, right? That's what it comes down to. How much force are they producing? Well, you know what determines the force of any individual muscle fiber? The type of muscle fiber it is, because we have a range of different types ranging from extreme endurance all the way to explosive power. So really, really slow twitch all the way to super fast twitch and everything in between. Faster twitch fibers produce more force. Slower twitch fibers produce less force, but they can do it more often. The only other factor is how big around it is. That's it, cross-sectional area. And you know what? If you train any given muscle fiber in your body to where its cross-sectional area increases 20%, how much do you think its force production increases? And I don't mean its potential, I mean its force production, because you can't pick how much it does. When a muscle fiber contracts, it contracts with 100% of its ability, not 50%, not 90, nothing. It's always 100. It's either 0 or 100, no in between. Muscle fibers don't do anything else. If you increase it by 20%, how much do you think its force production will increase? 10%? No. 30%? Nope. 20%. That's what it's going to do. You can't change that. The bigger it gets, its strength will increase in direct proportion, each fiber. And you can't do anything to change that. That is just the nature of it. So, when people talk about something with individual muscles, they say, well, then what's the difference between strength training and hypertrophy training for a given muscle? There isn't any such thing. There is no such thing. Anything, if you talk about a small little individual muscle like your bicep or your tricep, there is no way to separate hypertrophy from strength training for an individual muscle. The only thing you can change on the strength end is individual exercises, meaning motor unit learning, neural efficiency, all of that. So how do you increase those? By doing heavy weight, by doing low reps with heavy weight and training explosively, by doing full body movements that make you use your whole body as one unit. And that's the big difference. That is the big difference, and that's the irony of when you see some bodybuilders who are obsessed with this. If you take two identical twins, and you have them do different exercise types to get to the same size, so they both gain exactly 20 pounds of muscle mass over X amount of time, right? You have one of them do it with nothing but isolation movements all throughout the day, and you have the other guy get to the same amount of size doing mostly big full body compound movements that make him use his whole body as one. A lot of squats, a lot of deadlifts, and then, push presses, power cleans, and then have him do whatever isolation movements are needed to catch up whatever lively muscle groups are with the other guy. The other guy did all isolation movements to get to the same size. They're both the same size. Which one's going to be stronger when it comes to doing big full body exercises that require him to engage his core, to use his whole body, to engage his glutes at the same time he engages his triceps? The guy who did the compound movements. Which one's going to have a stronger bicep or pec when you put them on a machine to measure it? They're going to be the same. They're going to be about the same. That's it. There's not going to be a difference there. because the individual muscle is going to be strong depending upon how big they made it for the most part. You can only do a little bit to change that. So it begs the question of, well, why are some guys bigger than other guys who are stronger than them? Why is there guys who are 20 pounds lighter than you, same height, they got less muscle, yet they out squat and out bench press you, out deadlift you? Why? How are they doing that? Why is that happening? It doesn't make sense. Genetics. And it's not that their individual muscle fibers produce more or less force. It's nothing to do with it. It has to do with some people gain neural efficiency faster than others. Now, you can train for more neural efficiency, and that's the other big thing. You can train individual muscles to turn motor units on faster. But neural efficiency means, since the force generation is determined by the fibers that are there, their type and how big they are, you can get more powerful on your maxes by training your body to turn motor units on faster, training your peripheral nervous system to activate fibers quicker, to recruit more fibers faster. And if you do that, you're going to be more powerful. But you're still limited by the size of those fibers. That's still going to determine how much weight you can lift, how much force you can produce, really. It's just how fast you can activate them will make you stronger at 1 rep training. But, there's no difference on the 5 rep, 10 rep, 12 rep. Those are all going to give you the same results at the end of the day. None of them are necessarily going to produce more size versus strength over the other. If you gain the same amount of size in any of those, it'll be the same amount of strength. Now, power training can help you to recruit motor units faster, but some people are genetically more gifted at neural efficiency, and we found genetic freaks who don't even weightlift who have it. There have been a few who've been found out there, which I thought was fascinating, who just genetically have the neural efficiency of a highly skilled lifter. They can just activate muscle fibers faster. They're genetic freaks, but they exist. But there are people who have a better predisposition towards that also. And there's individual leverages. So when you factor in that some people have different insertion points where their tendons and things insert and their bone lengths and everything being relative, they simply recruit strength easier because their leverages are better. When you think about it, think about leverages when you use a cheater bar or something, or different lengths of wrenches. It's easier depending upon the length of the lever of how much force you need to produce to torque a bolt or a nut or to break it loose, right? Well, the same thing applies to bones and tendons and stuff in the body. But when you have something that inserts a certain way that makes you better at having leverage and power, it also might be worse at endurance. Meaning you might get a better squat, but maybe you can't run quite as long in a marathon as easily. So there's a trade-off, and so there's a genetic predisposition there because of maybe what that people's ancestors did in certain parts of the world. I mean, there's a lot of different genetic variations in the human race. I mean, we have a lot of variation as far as muscle insertions, muscle fiber distribution, all of that. And the same thing with muscle fibers. Fast twitch fibers can produce more power than endurance fibers, even at the same size, right? But the endurance fibers can contract more times before they get tired. Some people have more endurance fibers and some people have more power fibers than others. So if you have someone who happens to be genetically gifted with slightly better neural efficiency, slightly better leverages from their insertion points throughout their body, and they have a better distribution, they have a higher distribution of fast twitch fibers, they're going to be able to deadlift and squat more than you while at the same size. It's that simple. But they still had to gain muscle to get stronger. They don't just go squat and deadlift and not gain muscle and add 100 pounds on each one of them. They gain a bunch of muscle, adding 100 pounds to each one. But do they have to gain the same amount of muscle you do to add 100 pounds? Probably not. You might have to gain, because of their genetic advantages, twice as much muscle mass as they had to gain to put 100 pounds in each of your lifts. But you both had to get bigger to do it. And vice versa, when you both got bigger, you also got stronger. It's just not at the same ratio from person to person because of all those other factors. And so this idea that you're going to get bigger without getting stronger is just silly. And the best example, the one everyone loves to use, is when Kai Greene was quoted as saying, "I'm a bodybuilder, not a weightlifter." A lot of bodybuilders take that to mean that he doesn't care about the weight on the bar. He doesn't care about being strong. You guys ever watched Kai Greene lift? The man incline benches 500 fucking pounds. Do you know from a strength athlete perspective, from a power lifter's perspective, how fucking strong that is? It's insane. It is fucking insane. So when you have a guy who takes an exercise like the incline bench that a lot of power lifters and strength athletes love to use as an accessory or even a primary exercise, and he can outlift them on it, and then he talks about, and people say, well, he doesn't care about strength. Why is he incline benching 500 pounds on camera? He cares about strength. He just doesn't always care about his 1 rep maxes. He cares about gaining size, but he still knows that strength and weight on the bar are useful tools in doing that. So even everyone's golden boy example they like to use, they need to realize that Kai Green is inhumanly strong. Think about it. So when someone says, I want to gain strength, or I want to gain size without gaining strength, or I want to gain strength without gaining size, you have to look at them and go, well, you can want all you want, but you can't change the laws of biology. It doesn't work that way. It might change in ratios from person to person. It might change in ratios a little bit from training system to training system, but you can't gain one without gaining the other. It's just impossible. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.